Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and beyond. My name is Tania Norris, and I'll be your host today. And just a reminder that on this channel, we bring to you fabulous and fantastic people that are doing great things to uplift, enlighten themselves, the communities, and the planet. And most of these people are within Zimbabwe or our Southern African region. So if you're interested in anything that is along the lines of consciousness or esoteric topics or alternative lifestyles, then please go and check out all of our other interviews, and you'll find something there, I'm sure, that can add value and enrich your lives. So today we have with us one of those people. This is the second time round, and I'd really like to welcome today is Sonia Pereira. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Tanya. Nice to be with you again.
Thank you. So, Sonia, you've been, first of all, in Zimbabwe for a long, long time, doing a lot of teaching of different types of modalities, and you are a psycho-spiritual guide. Just explain to our viewers, what is that exactly, the type of work you do.
Okay. Well, my main interest for a large part of my life has been basically to have a deeper and more comprehensive understanding of what it means to be this human being that we are. And we are a rich kind of interplay between psyche and spirit, which are both very intimately. So my work has really been to unravel that and to clarify what that means so that we can have a better understanding of what and who we are and how we fit into the family of things.
Okie dokie. And so anyway, today we are going to be talking about the Enneagram, okay, because I know that that's one of the things that you have been teaching for a long, long time. And before we get into that, I'd just like to ask you to explain to us a little bit of the history, because I know it's very rich and multi-layered. And the modern version that we have of it, I think, has been quite commercialized. And I think people miss the point a lot when it comes to Enneagram. So please explain that to us just a little bit, or a lot, or however much needs to be explained.
Yeah. Yeah, the Enneagram has been my main teaching tool. I find it a very profound, deep body of wisdom. There's no real clear or single history behind it, which is really interesting. Nobody can say, well, the Enneagram started here, but it's kind of like this compilation of vast philosophies. It's a framework that has been drawn from many, many disciplines. Some of it from ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, from philosophy, some from Jewish Kabbalah, the medical schools. There are many, and even the contemplative Christianity played a large part in the foundation and making of the Enneagram wisdom. So it doesn't have any particular starting point. We do know how the Enneagram came to the modern Western world. It came into the Western world was through a well-known spiritual teacher called George Gurdjieff. And he was the one who brought the symbol. But he didn't bring it in conjunction with anything about 9 types. He would talk about chief features. It was more a sort of mandala showing certain key elements of consciousness and how various understanding the symbol was a way to sort of understand how we thought in dualistic thinking, for example, and to broaden our thinking into a more non-dual, more dynamic kind of perception of reality, of wholeness. And the symbol, which has a whole mathematical base to it, which I'm not going to go into, but it's basically comprised of 3 symbols. So 3 symbols make up the one symbol. And I'll give you a picture of what that looks like. So the main Enneagram structure is made from the circle, the triangle, and then that other funny little movement there is known as a hexad. But these each represent a law of reality or a law of the universe. So the law of the circle is the law of one, which is reminding us of the unity of existence at the base of everything. Everything comes out of it, everything returns to it. The law of three is basically the law of manifestation, or how discrete phenomena arise and then return to the unity. It's kind of like how things particularize or manifest as something distinct and particular in themselves. And then you have the law of seven, which is the law of development and change, and it really speaks to how anything that comes into manifestation is in a continual process of change and transformation. Nothing is static. So in a way, it speaks to how we are really more process than we are entity. And that in itself is a little bit of a shift in our view, because we tend to think that we are something separate from the dynamic movement of the whole, and we are not really. So that's just the kind of symbol. Okay. But he didn't really talk much about types. But there were various things that were his fundamental contributions to the way we understand the Enneagram today. Because he used it really as a process towards awakening to that deeper and broader and unified sense of being and being themselves. But the things that he particularly contributed was the distinction between personality and essence. You know, personality is a structure. Essence is something more fundamental. That was the first thing. The second thing, he spoke about how in the ordinary state, we really become asleep to ourselves and to the greater reality. And we begin to identify with what we think we are rather than who we really are. And that distinction is an important one. Then he also brought in the instincts and how we are driven by primary instincts, which nowadays are called self-preservation, sexual, and social, and how fundamental those are in terms of what motivates our behavior. But one of the biggest contributions is his reference to the three centers of intelligence, because we have three centers of intelligence. We have a body intelligence, instinctual intelligence, we have a heart intelligence, and we have a mind intelligence. And through various processes of our upbringing, those become fragmented. They are something that are supposed to work in unison with each other. But if you look at most people, they think one way, feel another, and do something completely different. So there's no unison within our intelligence. And most of us don't use all of our intelligence. We tend to be using one more than any other, and that one we tend to overuse it in the sense that then we actually lose touch with its actual function. So coming into understanding those three centers is a very deep groundwork of doing the work of bringing yourself online, bringing who you really are online. You need to understand what those intelligences are and what they're for and how they inform our lives. So that was also pivotal. You know, they're pivotal for our maturation and development as human beings. And the other thing, the interesting thing that he talked about, you know, he saw the Enneagram as part of this thing called the fourth way. And the fourth way, basically, as we know in history, there have been three traditional ways of people, how they approach their spirituality. So you've got the ascetics who do a body-based kind of spirituality, and you know, you go to India, you find people in caves or doing really intense stuff, difficult stuff with their bodies, you know. And that was one way. The second was the more sort of devotional bhakti yoga, the transformation of the heart, you know, and that's another way that people do their spiritual practice. And a third way was mastering that constantly churning mind into a pristine stillness. So the way of the quiet mind, where we can start seeing the ways we deceive ourselves. Now, all of those as traditional practices in history, they all required a certain amount of renunciation. You know, you'd go into a cave, or you'd go into a monastery, or you would separate. But with the fourth way, it's he calls it the way of the sly man, which is when you start working with all three at the same time. So you don't just focus on one, but you bring all those intelligences online together. And you do it in the midst of life, you know. So, and in fact, it necessitates being in the midst of life, because it is the very substance of life that matures and grows those intelligences into what they are meant to be. So those are foundational stuff. Then the guy who got a hold of it next was a guy called Oscar Icaza, who was also another deeply spiritual teacher. And he did this really interesting thing where he took contributions from East and West, kind of different interpretations of the soul, and he started mapping them around the Enneagram 9 points, and he mapped elements of nature and human consciousness. And he made about 108 of these. Again, not really interested in psychology. But there are 4 of those that have sustained and are part of the fundamental teaching of Enneagram, which are the Enneagram of fixations, the Enneagram of passions, the Enneagram of virtues, and the Enneagram of holy ideas. And those are institutional, you know, they really are foundational in terms of giving us the orientation of where the work in ourselves is. And then the way the Claudio Naranjo, who was a student of Picasso, then developed the system further, and he was the one who really then started fleshing out the characteristics. So these ground senses of patterns and stuff that were there, it, you know, display certain characteristics, and that is still being fleshed out, and it's still being worked, and it's getting more and more precise in terms of how each one expresses or behaves or feels or thinks. So unfortunately, there's a way in which the essence and the essential teaching from this very profound lineage has been diluted and lost in the modern day Enneagram, which when people hear it now, they hear personality typing system, you know, which is actually, you know, not what it's about. It's part of it, but it's really describing everything about you that you are taking yourself to be and that which you are not. You know, it's a coping strategy. It's not who you are. And, you know, and I think that point gets missed a little in terms of how we're working with the Enneagram in its modern interpretation.
So the difference is Enneagram. I just want to ask you who actually gave it. I know Gurdjieff created the symbol. I don't know who gave it the name. Did he give it the name Enneagram?
No, Gurdjieff didn't create the symbol. It came with him. But he didn't create it.
Okay. He brought it forth though to us.
He brought it. He introduced it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You know, Enneagram as a name really means drawing of 9 points.
Okay.
That's all that it means.
I think that's an important thing to establish as well. Okay. So now, so Sonia, what is the difference? So as we just said, so you go online, you do your personality test, you now come up with a number and you've got a type. Okay. You do workshops. And you are doing one that's coming up now. We can talk about that. Is it this next weekend? What is the date?
1st and 2nd of October.
1st and 2nd of October. Okay. So just turn that off. What is the difference to doing an online test and coming up with a personality type, or coming along and doing a course and getting into those deeper levels? What is the difference?
Well, and first of all, I'm not much of a supporter of these questionnaire, doing it online. It kind of defeats the whole object of doing, reflecting in oneself to see, does that fit, doesn't that fit, is that right? The whole motivational force behind our being, if you like, you can't, how do you question on motivation, why you do something? Because different types will do the same thing, but do it for a different reason. And the danger of doing these online things, yes, sometimes they can be pretty accurate and sometimes they can be all out wrong. So I've had people who have gone to do the kind of modern explication of the Enneagram, one of these tests, and then they get spat out the number and they think, oh, that's what I am. And they've come and done my workshop and they've realized they've actually been mistyped. Because you see, nobody can tell you what type you are. Any teacher with their salt, even if you're confused, you say, well, look there, or but I wouldn't say, oh, I think you are that.
Oh, right.
That's for you to discover. And that's the work. That's part of the work. You have to see what you truly resonate and what's in your system and what says yes and what says no and why.
Okay. All right.
And another very important distinction, see, we talk about point and type. The point on the Enneagram is a particular essential quality of being that is available to us. Right? Like strength or will or peace or love, a particular element or essential quality of being. Type is how that particular quality of being becomes distorted in the character who is then trying to recover that part which they've lost connection with. Because your whole type structure develops out of the loss of contact of your original nature.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm born whole. I'm in contact with my full being. Through my development process, for whatever reason, I begin to lose connection with that totality. All right. And then there's a sense that I've lost something. This is conscious. It all works unconscious, but the sense that I've lost something that I need to recover. And so a strategy develops, not only to defend me from the pain of that loss, because there's a suffering in it, but also it becomes my attempt to recover it, which never actually works. Because it's not something I can do. It's something I have to relax into.
Okay. Right.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So the purpose would be it would really suit, and it's suitable for somebody who wants to do some kind of self exploration, or the point I'm trying to make is, by knowing all of this, even if it is at its basic level, a personality type, or all the in-depth that you've just described to us, can I change? What will I change? How is that now used as a tool to improve my life or myself, or bring me more to presence? Right. Or what is the purpose?
Well, so in the very initial kind of thing, just sort of getting your type structure mirrored to you is a revelation. Yeah. Suddenly you're all mapped out. And right. You realize
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, but I'm just saying that self-realization in and of itself, which you do have, when you get these mirrors, doesn't necessarily change you.
No, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yes, be patient with me. So it's a revelation already that, wow, I'm all mapped out. Okay. And I'm not quite as original as I thought I was. All right. And that what it starts pointing to, so the value of learning your type is that, and realizing you're not alone in it, and that's kind of a relief. But it starts orienting you towards what you need to look at, start looking at. Often, when we don't, and this is why the psychospiritual, you cannot do the psychology without doing the spirituality, and you can't do the spirituality without doing the psychology. They intimately melded together. Because what will happen often is that the ego gets very excited. Wow, I've got all this revelation about myself, and here's my failing. I like to please people too much, and I don't know how to say no, so now I'm going to go and say no, and But what's happening there is nothing wrong, and it's natural to feel that way. But what's happening there is I'm using a part of my mind to act another part of my mind. And yes, I can rearrange the furniture in the cage to make it more comfortable and a little bit easier and less conflictual, but I'm still in the cage. I'm not liberated from my pattern. I haven't understood what my pattern is actually seeking and what it's trying to cover. Now, we are not the agents of transformation of our own lives. You can ask any spiritual master. Okay. And this is another error we make, is that we think we can, we are endlessly hanging on to self-improvement projects, which is actually something we have to drop. You can't improve yourself. You can't improve on nature. The point is, how do I get in touch with my actual nature? And that to relax everything that I'm doing that is trying to achieve it.
Okay.
All right. That's kind of counterintuitive, right? So relax what I'm doing and allow and stay with the awkward feelings of that. Because remember, what we're doing is wanting to protect us from stuff we don't want to see and we don't want to feel about. Okay. When we start relaxing, we now have to confront stuff that's sitting underneath.
Yeah.
Right? And it's in learning, and Enneagram brings us how to come to the right orientation of that. We learn how to support ourselves to tolerate the difficulties that we are experiencing, so that they can move into something else. And that's where the change, something alchemical happens in that meeting of ourselves in an authentic and honest, not running away way.
Okay. So Sonia, if I now I just give you an example, of myself, and maybe you can help figure this out a little bit. So we talk about personality types and traits. So it came to my attention some years ago, maybe 10 years ago or what, that one of my personality traits is that I am quite bossy. All right. And so I had that self-realization, like, oh, I really need to find a way to communicate my fantastic ideas to people without coming across as being, the one who knows everything and whatever. It's something that I have. So now, even today, I'm very mindful about that. So when I have these brilliant ideas, we'll be sitting in a room and I'll be listening to a whole heap of dull people come up with dull ideas and dull solutions. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I've done this 100 times before. I know exactly what to do. And I have to sit there and smile and say nothing. So in a sense, I'm communicating all of this better. However, inside, there's still the turmoil of, but you know what I'm saying, the irritation of having to be tolerant with maybe what I might consider inefficient people. Okay. So where would I go? Where would you go with that? Would you say to me, after what you've just said, that's a completely natural and normal thing, and you've just got to learn how to ease into it?
No. The way you'd approach it from the way that I work with it. I'd say, okay, Tanya, what does it feel like in that space? What does it feel like when you're sitting on the edge, you're holding everything back, you know, I'm being socially appropriate, right? But inside of me, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's absolute impatience. It's impatience. It's like smile and breathe. Just smile and breathe, smile and breathe, and let everybody, you know, have their silly ideas. And yeah, you know, and then sometimes I don't even give them my idea. I just let them go along with their what I consider really useless ideas with solutions, because normally it's in the context of solution solving, problem solving. Yeah, so the turmoil is there. It takes a while for me just to let it go. It takes, or I will very politely say, okay, in my experience, you know what I mean? And then I'll try and communicate it in a way that is not too bombastic, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's an unpleasant feeling. It's like,
Of course it's unpleasant. So there are various ways I can look at a dynamic like that. One of the ways, you know, I mean, it's very clear to me that you fall into a lot of judgment and opinionation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And when I start falling into a lot of judgment and opinionation, I don't see people as people anymore. I have objective them. I've made them less than people, and I don't acknowledge that each person is a person in their own right. So I've lost that. That automatically cuts me from my own capacity to be to relate personally with them. Right? Then I'm forcing myself to be socially appropriate because I got some idea in my mind that, oh, I've been told that I'm bossy, so I must rein that all in. No, you know, sometimes it's appropriate to be bossy, actually. But it's all about the skill and the style in which we do that. You know, how do we assert ourselves? And that has a lot to do with what we call the true strength, the point of true strength. You know, we need to have that strength, but when we're not in touch with the real strength, the true strength, then we either wimp out or we use too much force. So it's to start becoming aware, when am I using more force than is necessary to accomplish what I'm wanting to accomplish? And I start being mindful of that. You know, even just how, you know, sometimes you get wound up and you pick up a pen, you start writing, you don't even realize how tightly you're holding that pen. Yeah? And you're just acting it out and you're not aware that, wow, my system is revved up. Right? And it's starting to touch and make contact with that revving up, because all of this stuff is information. So it's going to show me what I'm attached to, what my belief structures are, what my intolerances are. And I need to start investigating because that's what's it's not about trying to shut down parts of yourself you don't like. Actually, there's a part of the Enneagram where we have to learn to kiss our golem. We have to actually meet and be friendly and embrace and be kind with all those parts of us we don't like. You know, which is not an easy process. And, you know, a lot of us are full of kind of self-judgment, self-loathing. We have to unpack all. If you want to be free, you got to unpack this stuff. Most of us just like, no, don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to get rid of this feeling. No, the feeling is information. It's got information for you. And if I can learn how to contact that through my three intelligences, in other words, through my body and sensation, I start learning what it feels like my whole chest contracts because there's no efficiency here, and it's like everything in my body just want to make things happen, and, you know, I'm task oriented. You know, it's not happening, and, you know, throw my hands up in the air and say, why not? That's all defense. Defense.
So a lot of it is being very mindful and living in awareness and not rejecting whatever comes.
Okay, so I'm going to change a word there. I don't like this word mindful. Because the minute you use the word mindful, everybody comes up.
Yeah.
And you're all too up already. what I would like to use the word, we begin to presence what is around. It's not just about looking. It's about sensing, feeling, and seeing. Not just seeing. Seeing is not enough. I have to touch it. And only in touching it can it open up and reveal what it is. Right? And it's not a just. Oh, we just need to. It's not a just. It's deep practice. It's a deep practice.
So would you say that essentially people, let's get back to the shallowness of the personality type, people can change as they get older? People
Absolutely.
and more
I'm a completely
present.
Person to what I was. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a completely different person to what I was in my 20s, no question. Anybody who knows me.
And then does that also answer the question of if personality and character is a natural thing or an environment thing, or so nature versus nurture?
Yeah, no, it's both. But
Okay.
you can't separate these things. Our personality structure develops out of this conversation between our temperament that we're born with, each born with a certain temperament or a certain leaning, and our environment. And that conversation between the two is what our structure develops out of.
Okay.
And depending on the nature of that environment, we either have a more healthy structure, less fixated, or a more unhealthy structure, more fixated. And that kind of determines your level of health within your type. Because even your type has levels of health in it, depending on how contracted you are or how relaxed you are. It's all a process about, it's really the process of how do I become a true human being in the larger sense of the word. We don't even know what that is, to be honest.
No, it's never capped.
We sure ain't living it.
No,
but we know that somewhere inside of us, we know we have some kind of memory or something of a possibility of what we can be. Okay. It's not something we can manufacture or produce or create. It's something we have to relax into, because that is what is the making of it.
So would you say almost like a remembering and going back into what was originally there that's been lost?
But with consciousness. So, yes. I kind of say it's interesting that this human being is, we both complete and a development at the same time. And the development is almost into the remembering that we are already complete. Right? But it can't, like I say, it cannot just be a mental thing. And this is the real crux of the Enneagram. It's an embodied spirituality.
Okay.
Where we embrace life, we enter fully into life with everything we have, and we mature through the rub, through the difficulty, through the losses and disappointments, the very stuff of life.
Sonia, so you have a workshop coming up, 2-day workshop.
Yeah.
So at the end of a 2-day workshop, what could people expect to come away with?
That's always so personal, person specific, because you will only get as much out of anything as much presence that you bring to it. I'm in a kind of liminal space where I've been teaching the Enneagram, and this happens often. I've been teaching it for a couple of years in a certain way, and I'm kind of like, okay, something's moved, I need to change it differently, and I'm in this kind of liminal space between the old and the not yet formed new. But it's a process. But I think certainly people will leave with hopefully, if they're willing to really show up for it, a deeper recognition of themselves, a a new orientation about how to approach themselves and their life. And yeah, you'll get a lot of insight into what you're up to that is not really working for you, and you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Great.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that we're up to that we don't see, and we don't realize how much it's working against us. You know? We need to see them.
And I would imagine that if
hopefully people will come out with something, I can't guarantee it.
No, but and also it should be quite useful if people are, say, a couple. It might be quite interesting to help with relationships, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you see each other much more clearly, and that, you know, the minute I can see you more clearly, and I don't assume you should be more like me, then I begin to let you be your own person, and become more tolerant of your ways, and be more tolerant of mine, with greater understanding of why we do what we do, and why it is we clash where we clash. So yeah, I mean, a lot of couples come and do this. Yeah.
So it isn't just about your relationships outside, but obviously the relationship you have with yourself, you know, in better understanding why you do what you do.
Well, again, if you look at the triangle part of the symbol, another thing it speaks to is that we are in 3 relations all the time, and it is irreducible. So I'm in relation with myself, I'm in relation with other, which includes everything, you know, people, animals, nature, and I'm in relation with spirit. That's irreducible. You can't remove any one of those at any time. All right. How much I tend to that is another story. Do I tend to the relationship with myself, with other, with spirit? You know, that's really your own. You know, some people tend too much just to themselves. Some people tend too much just to others. And it's again finding this balance between everything that I'm involved in, and how do I begin working with all of it?
Right, Sonia, we're going to have to wind this up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your insights and your wisdom, as always. And I really encourage people, please, to look at that. I'm going to put all the links to the workshop coming up and other work, because obviously you see people privately as well. So, yeah, and let's see what shifts we can create. And I think it's a very apt time, because I don't know, it seems like every second time I turn around, somebody's talking about an Enneagram. And you know, that bossy part of me wants to say to them, oh, by the way, you know, that's just touching the surface. Anyway, I say nothing. I just, you know, go with the flow.
You know, I don't think you need to say nothing. I think it's important to find a place within yourself where you can stand in what you know without having to be aggressive about it.
Yeah. You know, that's the lifelong problem, learning how to communicate and feel comfortable with that. That's my life. That's my process. Yeah.
And as you know, just to come back to something you say, you know, will people change? I'll say, yeah, you do. But I also want to say, you have to be very patient. It's long, diligent, and hard work that you have to be committed to. You have to really want it.
Yep. No, I agree. It is there's no rush to the top of the mountain, that's for sure.
There's no quick fix. There's no quick fix. Sorry.
No, there isn't. But you know what? I do think that even if you say do come for a weekend, it opens up something else.
Yeah.
It just
the beginning.
It's the beginning, and it just opens up more avenues for you. So yeah, very useful work. Sonia, thank you very much. Lovely to see you. To all of our viewers, thank you for joining us. Yeah, and you. Okay, everybody, we're going to end it now. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.